If you don't know music theory, doesn't matter. This right here will get you as far as you need to go, and it's built into the piano roll now. You know, it's actually kind of funny. Everybody was so excited for Ableton's transformation tools, but what they failed to realize is that all the magic lies in Ableton 12's generative tools. So just like with the transformation tools, you're gonna wanna turn on your scale awareness and set it to the scale that your beat or song is in, because this is gonna affect some of the different parameters that exist in these different tools. So I have this sample picked out, so we're in 140 BPM, D sharp minor, and this is what we got. And we're diving right into our first generative tool here, which is rhythm. Generates a rhythmic pattern of notes, which is repeated to fill the time selection. Rhythm's gonna work great for things like drums, your drum loops, for creating different rhythms, and it pairs together really well with Ableton's drum kits. So you can load in one of Ableton's drum kits, but by default, I just have a piano here, and you could load up any drum instrument or melody instrument if you wanna use this on your melodies. And how it's gonna work is you're just gonna start on a pitch that you specify right here, and it's going to start generating the rhythm from that note. So if you're using addictive drums, for example, you can find what note the drum that you're trying to make the pattern for is on. Otherwise, if we use one of Ableton's stock kits, for example, let's go ahead and load this up. You could also make your own kit by grabbing a drum rack instrument right here and then placing different drums on each of the notes. But we'll just stick with this stock one for now. So if we go back into our clip, you're going to notice it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of selecting the note individually, you see we have a drop down arrow now. So that's the biggest difference here. And you can actually pick the name of the different drum that you're targeting. Let's start playing around with this thing. So we got a shaker in here, it looks like, and we can pick the amount of steps. So it's going to set the number of steps in the pattern. So you can see as we turn this up, so what I'm noticing is as you turn down these steps, you're going to notice that more notes are going to fill in, right? That's the first thing. But the second thing is also that the pattern and density are updating and changing with it as well. So if we go ahead and turn up the density, it's going to generate more notes in our pattern. Otherwise, turning it down is going to generate even less notes. And the pattern here is going to change the pattern of the notes and how they behave. So I mean, all of these sound like great hi-hat or shaker patterns in general. And then you can change your step duration here as well. And I'm curious if we go all the way up or all the way down. Okay, there we go. If we go all the way up, we can actually make it go to our grid here. Otherwise, going back down, we can fit it. We could go one step duration, and then we can go anywhere in between. And as you can see, it can get all the way up to that 128 steps. All right, let's try out the conga soft. So we also have split here, which is going to determine the chance that a note is split in half. So let's turn this up and see it working in action. Oh, there you go. Everything's splitting in half. We can also shift all of our notes over to the left or right if we want to do that. So maybe we want to just take it off the grid by one step. And we have our velocity settings, so we can set a base velocity for all of the notes, and then we can also set a different velocity for an accented note, which is specified on this next number. So in the frequency tab right here, we have it 4. So every 4 notes is going to be an accented note, and that accented note is going to have a higher or lower value of the velocity depending on what you set. So if we go ahead and look down here, now you can see every 4th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's another note that has a higher velocity. If we go to the left or right, you can see it's actually going to shift over the placement of where those are at. Otherwise, if we go up or down from the frequency, that's how often it's going to happen. I want to see if I can actually make a hi-hat pattern that's somewhat decent. I don't even think you could come up with a bad pattern using this thing. They've kind of made it so that no matter what you set here, it's going to sound reasonable. Real quick, guys, we're reinstating our 50% off all drum kits sale on our website for another week. So if you missed out on the first opportunity, you got another chance. Use the code Ableton12 in all caps at checkout for 50% off all of our drum kits and our drum production suite. That's it. This next one is seed, and this is going to generate random MIDI notes for us based on the parameters that we give it. So we can actually set a range of different instruments to be generated here. And as we do it, you can see it's going to go absolutely crazy. Otherwise, if we want it to be one note, we just slide the arrow all the way over until it just lays on one note. And then if we go back to the right, we can separate it that way. So if you wanted to do one note at a time, that's how you would do that there. And then you can set the duration. So we're going to give it a range. So how short do we want the notes to be? Probably not a 1/62. Maybe like 1/8. So maybe 1/8 would be a short note, and a longer note for us, maybe a half, a bar, maybe to a bar. We'll give it a velocity range. We don't want it to go too low here. And then we have our voicing and density. So obviously when we turn our density up, it's going to generate more notes. And voices is going to set the max number of simultaneous noises, but that's not going to update anything live as we change this value. So you just have to trust it. But I'm curious, if we did this on a piano, let's go ahead and delete this MIDI. We'll create a new one on a piano that I have open here. Can this actually be useful, or is this only good for drums? So if we want to start with one note, let's go ahead and maybe we'll start with an F2, but can we pick another pitch? Oh, we can. Okay, cool. So we can go ahead and give it a range of notes here. And the duration for these, maybe it's going to be a little bit higher. Honestly, I don't think we had it too bad off there. Maybe a quarter note to a full bar seems about right. We'll give it a bigger range of velocity since this is going to be more of like a realistic instrument versus like a drum. And then we can play with the density, and I probably want to turn this down quite a bit because I don't know. Let's just start. Let's listen to this thing. Once we get up there to that like 60% density level, it's going to go ahead and fill out this first chord. But even if we push it up further, since our range only goes between those notes, it can't add any notes further higher or up. So it's always going to keep that first one the same unless we go ahead and set this even higher. Now, maybe you wouldn't take this whole MIDI and run with it, but maybe there's one part of this that you like the idea. And that's the whole point of this, is to generate some crazy shit, and maybe it comes up with something that's usable. So I like this first part. Like right there, that all sounds really cool to me. So what I could do is I could delete everything else, and I could build off of that section of the melody right there. And I could use some of the other tools to build onto it, or I could take it and run with it. So yeah, just added some bass notes, and you could come up with a crazy pattern just taking that one little section at the beginning that I thought sounded okay. Moving on to the next one, which is called shape. And shape generates a sequence of notes with varying pitch based on the shape drawn in the display or the selected shape preset. We have a range of pitches here. So maybe we want to start at G#3. Actually, let's start at our D#3. Let's go all the way up. Screw it. Holy smokes. Okay, and as you can see, it's stepping all the way up here by default. Let's hear what this sounds like. Interesting, and that's just on the default behavior here. So we have up selected, but let's check out what the other ones look like. We have flat. I guess that makes sense. We got down, which is going to descend. Up and down. So this reminds me a lot of the settings that we have on our arpeggiator, especially our transformation arpeggiate tool. We get a lot of the same styles right here. So we can go up and down there, and we can probably go anywhere down and up. Yeah, any variation in between. We could go to arc up, arc down. So if you want to generate one of these shapes, or bounce up, okay, these are actually kind of crazy, bounce down, okay. And then we can generate some different patterns based on our density here, jitter, which I'm guessing is going to offset everything. Interesting, so when we turn this jitter up, you can see some of the notes are going to go up and some of them are going to go down. So it's just going to change up some of the notes that we have generated here. And we have tie, which is going to give us a probability for the note length to go the full amount. As you can see, that one ranged all the way out. If we turn it back down, it's going to make the notes shorter. You can see as we go up here, it's going to look thinner and thinner because it's less notes because they're longer. So you could go in and change the density from there as well. And then we have our rate. By default, it's set to the grid, which I like a lot, but we can go ahead and change our rate to determine the note lengths. This actually sets the minimum length for the generated notes. This is definitely an interesting tool. I never thought to think of shapes when I was creating MIDI. I usually go for how it sounds versus how it looks, but hey, it's a different way to perceive your MIDI even further. This next one is my favorite because it allows us to create advanced chord progressions. This one's called stacks. Generates up to 4 chords from the current scale. So you can specify your root note here. You have different inversions for each of the stacks, which is going to be a chord. And then you can add onto your stack. So if you want multiple, you can do it there as well. But let's start building here. We also have a duration, which is going to set how long the selected chord is. So let's go ahead and set this to be Yeah, 1/4 of a bar is fine. And here we have our basic triad. So actually, if we go ahead and click this arrow up here, it's going to go between different chords, and you can go up and down, or you can just hold and select, and then you can drag up and down. You can see we're going to go through all different kinds of chords. So let's listen to a couple of them. And then you can see we have inversions for each of them. So you have 2 different choices. And if you don't know what an inversion is, it's going to change the octaves of some of these notes here. We also have an offset here if we want to drag some of these notes off, which I think is awesome. They should have added this exact same thing right here on the strum transformation tool because they don't have anything like that. So that's cool if we need to go ahead and offset. So let's go ahead and build another chord from here. And what we're going to do is we're going to click plus. And then if we need to go back to our first chord, we're just going to select it there. And then we can change it from there. So let's go ahead and pick a different chord. And interesting, looks like it offset it. If we go ahead and go backwards, you can probably get it. Yeah, right there, we can get it to line up perfectly. In fact, we're probably going to want a different root note on the second one, and we can pick that there, so. And it'll allow you to add up to 4 different chords here, and then you can go ahead and remove them if you'd like to do that. In fact, what if we wanted to remove our very first chord? There you go. It'll allow you to remove the first one if you want to do that. So you have complete control over the different chords, over the root note, the different variations, and you even have inversions. So if you don't know music theory, doesn't matter. This right here will get you as far as you need to go, and it's built into the piano roll now. So the last one we have to take a look at today is Euclidean, and this is under the Max for Live. But I looked at Ableton's website, and as long as you have the standard or suite license, you'll be able to get access to this tool. And Euclidean, this is probably the craziest one, at least how it looks. I mean, it looks like a damn piñata. But luckily, Ableton gave us a really nice detailed description of exactly what this tool does. Let's check it out. The Euclidean effect. Bravo, Ableton, bravo. So if we type in the Euclidean effect music, it says Euclidean rhythms typically combine even and odd numbers of beats and divisions, creating a transition and bouncing effect ideal for dance music. First, right off the bat, I just started clicking, and you can see if you click the middle, it looks like it's going to randomize these parameters for us. So the rotation is going to affect each one of these lines individually, so it's only going to affect the top one when we go up and down here. Same with this one, and that one. But we also have a voices section here. So that was the pattern section. Each one is going to be individual. So we have velocity. You can turn them on or off here as well. And it looks like we can even swap some of them out. The range that you pick is going to be 4 notes that are next to each other. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We can also add groups of notes. As you can see, the ones we had previously are grayed out now. So if we wanted to add another layer, we could go up like this. Maybe we want to turn off these ones and just affect the hi-hat. Let's turn up the steps. Maybe we'll turn this down a little bit. Let's turn up the density there. Okay, so now we have like a regular hi-hat pattern. Let's maybe turn it down a little bit. And when we have our different divisions, which actually 16th would be perfect. And then besides that, the only other thing on our list is this Max MIDI generator, which is going to allow M4L developers to hook up to this even easier and make some different devices using all of these new features that Ableton 12 has to offer. And if you guys haven't seen all of the amazing transformation tools yet, you got to check out this video. Otherwise, if you want to see everything that's new in the piano roll, check out this video right here. Seriously, you got to click on one of them. Let's go.